Welcome to TWMP Daily. I'm Scott Faughn, joined this week by Jake Crozen. Jake, thanks for making the time.
Happy to be here, Scott.
And one of my dearest friends in the world, Robert Knodell. Robert, thank you for joining us.
Good to be here, Scott. Thank you.
So, if you watch this show and you follow Missouri politics, you know who Robert Knodell is. But I had someone who's relatively new. It just got elected last year and was brought you up and was like, well, how did he get started? And I'm like, I had to think for a second because it's been a while. We're the gray on both of our hair. When you started, there was none in either one of ours. Now we're kind of, that gray is creeping up. I said, well, I think it kind of started with his dad. It was a superintendent back in Southeast Missouri. And I probably met him when he was with the evil empire of Twin Rivers. We, Neelyville people like myself, we do not cover Twin Rivers. My daughter is now dating a Twin Rivers guy.
Good for her.
That's not how I view it at all. That is a view I don't. You and I see the world very similarly, except that I'll barely wear a blue shirt.
It's a Hatfields and McCoys issue. That's for sure.
Your dad, I got to really work with him when he was city planner. And he had this way about him where he could tell you anything in the world, the worst news, and you were left thinking, oh, he didn't want to have to do that. He's a nice guy. He had a great way about him with people. And I always thought that's something you brought to politics. But tell me, was it kind of through your dad that made you go down this career choice?
Yeah, I mean, my interest in public affairs, politics, public service really started at the dinner table.
Yeah.
At home and, discussing whatever was on the news or, the topics, national issues, state issues, local issues, a lot of school tax discussions with us because my dad was a school guy, but, learned that firsthand, became interested, and he was very helpful in leading me in that direction and certainly was a tremendous influence.
So you got started back when the Republicans were just taking the majority, right?
Yes.
That was where you kind of cut your teeth, and it's kind of funny when you think about all the, I'm not going to say the Forrest Gump of Missouri politics, but in a lot of ways, I mean, you were there at the majority, you were there with the supermajority, you were there with Governor Parson. You really kind of, your career has really encapsulated the Republican dominance of the state.
Well, it's been a fascinating, last couple of decades for sure, and to see.
Would you have thought
change
when we were down there trying to elect Laney Black that now you couldn't lose as a Republican?
It's been a total sea change.
Incredible. Laney Black, Jake is he has none of that gray creeping up his sideburns yet. Laney Black was the first guy to win in like Mississippi County, and Mississippi County did not take the Republicans. Even then, the whole courthouse was still Democrat. They actually one time there were Barclays gets down there and videotape. They would very openly give you a fifth of whiskey and a sample ballot, and like they would at least. I don't think they did it in the courthouse. They would do. The bus would pull up across the street. I do think they respected things enough to go across the street. Mm-hmm. Hand you your sample ballot and your fifth. And now they didn't have to do it in a general because they didn't vote Democrat. But in a primary, you'd get them. And Barclay, back when, remember how tape recorders were as big as that corn man thing? He had some tape recorder, he'd call this, and he was in, there's a, Barclay saves this stuff in his office. He's got a picture of himself in the Wall Street Journal. They used to draw you out. Everything in the Wall Street Journal was black and white, drawn photograph of him, and they were going down there to investigate. And the damn courthouse, one of the most beautiful courthouses in Missouri, by the way, burnt. Who'd have thought? All the records burnt. And I think they did try to just burn the records, but somehow the whole place caught on fire. And one of the saddest parts is they rebuilt it. It's a nice courthouse.
It is.
They didn't rebuild it back to how before the arson, alleged arson that happened just before the investigation started. But it is Laney Black was this great farmer who you just had to like. You couldn't dislike Laney. And he won back when they win by like 60 votes or something. It was so tight.
Well, Laney, if you remember, actually lost the first time he ran. And he told people in southeast Missouri that it would take a burning bush experience for him to be able to run again. And you were talking about David Barclay earlier. He literally lit a bush on fire in Laney Black's front yard and told him to look out the window. And Laney ended up saying, you know what? If you guys want me to run so bad that you're actually willing to burn a bush in my yard, I'm going to run again. And he did, and he won.
You could tell me that story about many people that we both know, and I would look you in the eye and call you a liar. But I believe this story about Barclay.
Can we put that on Barclay's resume, professional bush burner?
Which page? So as folks probably, there isn't much scuttlebutt that doesn't go around, right?
Yes.
You had a rough time.
Yes.
And I tell you, I don't bullshit people on this show, as a person who I consider a dear friend, I just want to say I was so proud to be your friend with the way you took that head on.
Thank you.
Everybody that's never had a day like that in their life, just be proud and just watch how long it'll be. I've lived a few of those, and I wish I would have been the man that you were, how you stepped up and handled that. But, tell folks what they should know about that window, and then I want to talk about what's next.
A lot of, after a lot of years, and we talked a little bit about that earlier, but a lot of years of, high visibility, high pressure, high stress work. And, I was always that person that, told my team members, my employees, staff, to really pay attention to self-care, to take care of yourself. And, I was very, very good at telling others that, perhaps not very good at doing that myself. And, I found, sort of things coming to head at one time. And
you used to overwork. I used to tell you that.
When the thing you remember about your vacation is a cell phone ringing, and and just having to work from a distance.
Robert, I tell you,
vacation.
I think that what you just said about self-care, I know a lot of happy lobbyists. Now, maybe not that many happy ones in late April, early May, but by Memorial Day, I know a lot of happy lobbyists. Campaign consulting's a grind. It is just an absolute grind. You are there. Now, for some folks, it can be a grind you hit only during cycles, but you came out of that world where you were always in a grind. And I watched you. You I think it's very fair to say when you're breathing, you're working. Yep. And I don't care who you are, I don't care what you do. If you run the schedule you ran, you're going to pick up bad habits to sustain it, because you're not meant to sustain the hours you put in. And that's a lot of folks. That has some of the same issues in that field.
That is true. That is true. And for me, unfortunately, that manifests itself in poor choices and consequences. And you're
using your body in ways it's not meant to, and so you're going to have to augment some way. Now, some people can choose other ways.
Yeah.
But you almost inherent in working that schedule that you took from politics to then the government. I remember the government people was like, "What the hell is he doing working these hours? You're going to make people look bad." But you take that work ethic you had from that campaign, and you're using your bodies in ways it's not meant to be, and you're going to compensate somehow.
And that, for me, manifests itself. And, I just reached a point where, dealing with consequences, poor choices, and misguided attempts to self-medicate, I ended up in a situation where, I just had to stop. Had to completely stop, call a timeout, and at long last pay some attention to self-care.
Yeah.
And do that publicly. And there's no other way to do that when you're, in a high profile position. You have to be transparent.
When's honest. The last time you was anonymous? And you've been a director, you've been in the governor's office, you've been running HRCC, you've been running campaigns. You probably haven't been an anonymous person since you're in 20s, right?
You can't wear an old T-shirt to Walmart on Saturday morning.
Yeah,
I'll just put it that way. And there's a lot of good that comes with that, and but also a lot of pressure. And sometimes we don't always handle that very well. And it's difficult. It was certainly difficult for me to admit that. To own up to the fact that, hey, I'm struggling here. I'm going to stop and get the help I need, the treatment, the support. To be able to come back and to be able to sit here today and say I'm healthier than I've been in a long time, well rested, energized, mentally,
you look
physically,
good.
Spiritually.
You look good.
Well, I appreciate that.
Better than him.
Well, that's a low bar. You don't look as good as Jake. I'm not bullshitting.
No, that's true.
Not as good as Kelton.
You look good. Well, Kelton can hide it with all that.
Yeah.
You look good. So tell me. So you had the DWI. I still contend it's possible that you might have had Alabama Tide gear on in Mississippi, but might not have been helpful mitigating factor.
That can be a problem. Absolutely.
But seriously, you go and you find help just because I guarantee you there's someone watching this right now that is in some one of the stages that you were in before you had to call that timeout. How'd you pick a place? How'd you reach out? What is it like when you're in the spot you're in? Everybody knows you. And look, I've had controversy in a small town. It's different. In St. Louis, you could wear you could be on every news channel, and 2 days later you could go to Schnucks in an old T-shirt.
Yes.
Nobody'd know you. Yep. That is not small town life.
No, it's not.
Somebody that's in one of the stages, maybe, hopefully, they're watching this before they get to the stage you hit. When you did get there, who did you reach out to? What is that like, and what can you tell somebody else that might need a timeout, or maybe they need a small thing before they hit the wall? What do you do? How does a high-profile person like you, what do you do in that situation?
That is, it's very difficult to do. But, I made a decision early on in the process that, I was going to be very open and very public about this in the hope that someone would see and, have an opportunity to take care of themselves before things reach a spiral. But for me, just having the unwavering love and support of my family, my wife and daughter have been there every step of the way. And, I had some very, very close friends. And people say, when you work in politics, when you work in public service, that, your friends are only friends when you can do something for them, or when, they're going to get something out of that relationship, very transactional. But I have some very, very close friends in this business that stepped up for me and helped me figure out those next steps. And
you reached out to your friends?
I did, absolutely. And
what was that like?
They were there. Well,
I'm sure
it's
first, humbling.
It's
It's not easy.
Yeah. It feels embarrassing. You feel like your friends, even though they're going to be there for you no matter what, you feel like you've somehow let them down.
Sure.
That they've placed a lot of trust and confidence over the years, and I felt like I was letting them down when actually, I was doing the right thing for them because, coming out on the other side, capabilities and, those friendships will be even deeper and stronger as a result of that.
It must have felt really good, the outpouring that you received from,
yes,
the amount of people I saw on Facebook who just laid on the love for you after that. It must have felt really good.
It is. I'm eternally grateful. I could feel those prayers, those support. I hear from people every day of the week that are reaching out, wanting to be helpful. And, when anybody meets with misfortune or, has an unfortunate circumstance in their life, there will be some people that will want to kick you to the curb or,
sure,
take joy in that. But that's a reflection on them, and that's a reflection on their personal reality. And, I just encourage folks to do what you need to do for yourself. Your friends will be there. Those that care about you will continue to care. And, I haven't met one person that said, hey, I thought the world of you and now I don't. It's in fact, it's the other way around.
That's the kind of thing you think in your mind, and then when you get confronted with reality, it's different.
It is. It's very gratifying.
To me, now that you're kind of coming through some stuff on the other side of some stuff, I just want to go back one more time to, if you see something, like to me, politics is a tight group of people.
Yes.
You may think, you may know thousands of people.
Yes.
You may have you may be Caleb Jones, have 20,000 contacts in your phone, but it really sometimes lonely, and people come in and out of your life because that's the nature of it. What's the best way if somebody sees a friend that they need to talk to? What's the best way to approach them?
I think it's to take the bull by the horns and you say, hey, look, I'm here to help. I see changes, and the question that I would ask anybody is, when you look in the mirror in the morning, can you tell yourself and believe the fact that you're controlling everything that you can control or you should control? Wow. Are you controlling your role in the relationships you have? Are you controlling, the dynamics, in work that are under your purview? Are you in control of, relationships with substances, medication, whatever the case might be? And if that answer is no, then, it's time to really get the help and take the time
before you have to drink from the bitter cup you drank from.
Yes.
Figure it out, right?
Yeah, and if I can help one person, sort of be introspective and
identify where you are,
identify that point earlier in the process, then what I will have gone through, will be, I will be satisfied, in stepping forward and trying to be open about this, because if someone else can be helped, then that's what it's all about.
So you go to a place, recharge the batteries, get some help. Today, do you feel like you can have a drink, or do you feel like that's something that's a break in your life that you need to put aside?
Yeah, that's a choice, and I'm comfortable with abstaining for that for the rest of my life. I've made that commitment, and again, I think the more open and the more vocal you are about that, the more accountability that you will face, because I'm not going to look at a camera and say that, and then somebody find me, a month from now, a year from now, going a different direction.
How many of your friends have you had a beer with that they want to see you succeed? A beer's not that big a deal to them. Absolutely. I think it's an interesting thing. I mean, there's things you just
anybody that would pressure you to do that doesn't have your best interest.
No. I'm with you. But people don't know if they don't know, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Now let's talk about what we're going to go for. But first, we get a little business here. When you come up to Jeff City, Robert, what is the hotel you'd put your kinfolks up in?
Oh, absolutely, the Courtyard by
Exactly. He knows what's up. Also, the best rural broadband in all the state of Missouri, and the great Northwest, United Fiber. And then the one thing, Robert Knodell is about as Missouri as you get. But I'm going to tell you, there's one thing more Missouri than Robert Knodell. The folks that are seeds, plants, they plant them, they fertilize them, they harvest them, they package them, they test them, they sell them all here in Missouri. The products of the Mocan Trade Association. Ain't nothing more in Missouri than the products from the Mocan Trade Group. Let's talk about what we're going to do next.
Yep, absolutely. Well, my career, and especially the turns that I've taken, the last decade or so, has been, in the interest of helping other people, through whether that's through healthcare, social services, and the like. So, I'm excited about, opportunities on the horizon to be able to help folks and to be able to continue to see positive change in our state. And so, I think this next chapter is going to be even better.
What are you looking to do?
Continue to, continue in public service.
Find that spot, yeah. I mean, it just feels like it'd be weird to see you not. And public service isn't being governor. It's a whole host of things that are beside that. You know what I mean? I'm excited to see the next chapter. We got to talk a little politics now. Oh, I got to tell you a story. So back in the day, I had a friend of mine who was complaining about the governor's staff. Oh, governor's staff's screwing me and doing all these things. And I'm like, well, I doubt their goal is to, you may be getting screwed, yes, but I don't think that's their policy goal is to screw you. And then I heard him complain about Kehoe's staff, and I'm like, oh, the world. Hey, that Parsons staff was great. This Kehoe staff. And I'm like, my, how the world turns. And then a few years from now, there'll be somebody saying, that Kehoe staff wasn't that bad. This new governor is terrible. I got the biggest kick out of that because I was like, I remember vividly you telling me how much you didn't like Parsons staff.
It's like the old ties in your closet. And you keep them long enough, they're going to come back into style.
You're going to like them, yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. We talked about the world going from Laney Black to now Republican couldn't lose Mississippi County. Was that live boy, dead girl theory? I think you could do both, and if you were the Republican, still carry Mississippi County. The current state of politics, interesting. The governor, I saw Kehoe have, I think, what would be Kansas' first loss when the Chiefs left. And I know it's complicated. I actually think Jackson County's internal turmoil probably had more to do with it. I thought the state's offer was very generous.
I'd vouch for that.
But I'm just saying, I
would agree. I
mean, what would be terrible, the worst case scenario for the state and for the governor and for, Jesus and everyone, if they lose the Chiefs and they have to keep the Royals. That would be a total loss.
I don't think I'd go that far, but...
Well, if you don't think it's a total loss, the Royals will live you some total losses, and they'll get help with that.
Missouri's minor league team is actually the Springfield Cardinals, so...
Yeah.
The Royals being a minor league team in another state.
Well, it's nice to have a ballpark where you have so many seats. You can spread out. You can put a blanket over them. I have somebody that was like, how do you get front row tickets to the Royals game? I'm like, well, you buy upper deck tickets and just walk down, and there's nobody there. You can have yourself. it's interesting how Kehoe rallies back from that. I thought his tax plan's bold. I mean, how many meetings have you and I sat in where people talked about this? This is the first time I've actually seen somebody step up and say, I got a plan to take us to zero.
You know, I think the governor, is taking big swings. And I mean, it's very consistent with what you see with President Trump, who, in the last 100 years, there have only been really two true change agents that have been president. I would argue Franklin Roosevelt, and Donald Trump. Others have talked change and tried to work within the system. And I think you can correlate that to state government in terms of, a lot of people talking change, within the tax code, but, a tenth of a point here, a half of a point there, and those are good economic stimulus. There's no doubt about that. But, no one has really tried to put that rubber to the road. And, the governor is being bold. And I think that's where the people of Missouri want to be.
Complicated, though.
Steps.
It's complicated. I've watched them have to redraft this, and it's hard. But big things are hard.
It is.
You've been a part of big things real great. They're hard. It's a tough road to hoe. You think they get it done?
I think there's a real chance to get that done. The devil, is certainly in the details. But one thing I know about Governor Kehoe, his relationships with the General Assembly, and his relationships with the Republican base in Missouri are strong and solid. And if anybody can get that done, I think Governor Kehoe can get it done.
It's funny we talk about the Republican base. Do I think in rural Missouri, the real Republican base, the supermajority of the supermajority, yeah, I think they're as strong as they can be. But all the attention gets put on the city slickers.
It does.
And all they do is whine. Mike Kehoe throws up win after win after win. And now he doesn't whine and cry on Facebook enough. And so people in St. Charles don't like it. You got your actual Republican base that we'll all see next weekend at Lincoln Days. Then you've got your urban folks that are, I don't know if there's anything Mike Kehoe could do except go and piss and moan all day to make them happy.
Well, when
losing, it seems to be their favorite tradition.
Well, if you lose all the time, then you can continue whining on Facebook. So that's kind of how the system works then.
But if if the voters give you the proverbial keys to the car,
which they did in a big way,
then you have to drive it. And all of a sudden sitting in the passenger seat and saying, hey, you should have turned here, or you shouldn't have hit the rumble strips, or you should pass that vehicle in front of us. You can't do that. You have to actually drive the car, and sometimes that involves making decisions that not everyone would like, but it goes with the territory.
I have to say, in the Republican Party, I hear people say, "Oh, somebody's going to run against Kehoe, this one, that one." That's all bullshit. You've seen, you've been in the front row of the bus to see a Republican governor. You're going to get reelected.
Yep.
I mean, it's not a serious thing. Now, is Bill Eigel extremely talented? You're damn right he is. Is other people in the party could make a run to make a name for themselves? Well, that's what they'd be doing. The Republicans are going to reelect their governor, and the money, and well, you and I've seen it. It wasn't even Parson wasn't reelected, but let's be honest. A year out, he had no problem getting reelected.
He was the incumbent.
Yeah, and he was going to stay that way. I mean, and I think Kehoe, I think it's fantasy land. People talking about some sort of change or whatever.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's real.
I don't either.
Let's talk about some other stuff. This year, look where we're from. Trump would be king. If somebody wanted to make Donald Trump literally, they say no kings. Go to Butler County and nominate Donald Trump for king, and you're going to have 90% of the people saying, "I agree. Yes, Your Majesty." But this is his last midterm. The people, we get tired of stuff. That is the one thing that's constant, is we get tired of stuff. Lee Summit, Springfield better than anybody in this state. The Democrats have very good candidates, extremely good. The Republicans came up with two great candidates. They got Patterson late, but there was no, let me start with this. Could another Republican have held that seat besides John Patterson?
I do not believe so.
I kind of think
it would be very, very difficult, especially in a non-presidential year. If you look at, districts perform differently, different times. And if you're in a special election, if you're in a midterm election, electorate, looks different, especially in the suburbs. And I found that to even be more the case in Kansas City than St. Louis. And he is uniquely well positioned for success.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you this. I think he could lose that primary easier than he could lose that general.
It is possible.
All the things that you respect and all the reasons that I think he's very tough to beat in the general, that in a primary where the county executive race probably will dominate the coverage and what ballot you take. And you got to keep in mind, in Jackson County, do you elect your assessor yet or no? You just elect.
Now we will. Now we will. Actually.
So that's, again, probably Democrat primaries.
Yep.
The only Republican primary would be the state Senate race, and it'll be a little on their radar. I think I think John Patterson had better watch that. I think he could absolutely, if he takes it seriously, he's probably fine.
Voters
but if I'm the
are not always
Democrat,
pragmatic.
well, if you and I if we weren't doing what we do for a living, right? And we were just talking, let's say, let's go after lunch, let's go vote. You and I'd be talking about the county executive race.
Yes.
And we'd probably go pull a Democrat ballot because that's the race that has the most attention and the most buzz. We wouldn't strategically take a Republican ballot for the state Senate. That's not real. So as we go forward, I think he's got to watch that primary. I think that primary is a bigger pitfall than other people think because of the contracted number of voters. They're going to be very right-wing. John's taking a couple votes. He's going to piss some folks off in that world. He's going to have to really take the gloves off but I think if he wins that, if I was the Democrats, I would have no money left after the primary. Because I think if Dan Stacy wins, Kerry's senator.
Yeah.
There's a clear McCaskill approach play there to be had.
And I think that's a better play than the general play. What do you think?
It very well possibly could be because, again, Republicans really have not had a lot of adversity in elections recently. So, usually that
elections they should have lost, they've won.
Adversity breeds pragmatic choices in primaries. And, if you don't have that adversity and you believe that, anyone that you nominate can be elected, then that's how you end up with candidates that are unelectable in general.
That seat goes back to Bill Kinney, right?
It does.
I think Bill Kinney is the one that flipped that seat. I can't remember who had that. DePasco's was the independence guy.
Right.
I can't remember who had that, but I think Bill was the first modern Republican to win that. That'd have been mid-'90s. And but to your point, generations of people have always just seen a Republican state senator.
Yes.
I mean, Will Krause, just on through, to your point. Let's talk Springfield real quick.
Yes.
I know you got to go, but in the Springfield race, Democrats have, I would say the best recruit of the cycle was Patterson, because they were going to lose that seat if they didn't get Patterson. Betsy Faughn was probably the second best recruit. Tremendous candidate, tremendous family name, good fundraiser, great in the community.
She connects with people very, very well.
And her father, and there's a lot of reasons why. But again, you're flipping a seat. So I tend to think what normally happens before it happens again. Lincoln Huff might have been in that Patterson mold. By the time he ran for re-election, I'm not sure they win that seat without him. Maybe not quite as much, but Springfield has pockets of Democrat voters, right? They've elected Democrat state reps, more so than in the 8th. Melanie Stinnett, great candidate. If you were going to say, let me dream up the perfect Republican candidate, it'd be a woman. It'd be somebody that maybe was in a field of special needs and things. It would be someone that would hustle and raise money. Like, if you were creating a Republican candidate for that seat in a lab, it might be Melanie. And if you were creating one, a Democrat, it would definitely be Betsy. I don't know. Something tells me Springfield would flip before Lee's Summit.
And, one of the unique, the difference is the media market in Springfield, your television, your newspaper will cover that race in a way that Kansas City media probably will not.
Right.
So, I always say Springfield and Columbia are sort of unique in that the level of coverage that you receive, in these races, the horse race aspect. And, I think in Springfield, again, that's going to be a matter of turnout, and which electorate is the most
I like
excited.
the Democrats on turnout a little more.
They, usually, and it seems like, a lot of times complacency with the incumbent party can creep in, and you don't have a top ticket bruising battle in Missouri. You don't have a U.S. Senate race. As much as I'm eager to turn out and vote for Scott Fitzpatrick for auditor, I'm not sure that race, he's a great auditor.
I'm not sure anybody at Myrtle's knows there is a state auditor. Myrtle's is a breakfast spot in Poplar Bluff.
It is.
Robert Knodell, thank you for the time. I'm excited to see what the next chapter looks like. I hope you'll come back. Regardless, we'll come back here and shoot the bull on This Week in Missouri Politics.
Sounds good.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll be back later next week. We'll be back with Attorney General Catherine Hanaway. Been in the news a little bit. Could be an interesting interview.